hit Spain, tearing away. Catastrophic floods hit Spain earlier this week, tearing apart cities. Many were left displaced without clean water, energy, or food. And many lost their lives, leading to a total of 217 bodies found, according to Times last week. This is on top of the 70 people currently missing in the country. This crisis has called for a change in crisis management in the country, leading us even further to ask, should Spain's Pedro Sanchez resign? And my answer to this is yes, for three main reasons. Firstly, being past corruption scandals that have slandered his campaign. Secondly, his previous resignation attempts dating back to not even a year ago. And finally, the mismanagement of emergencies is characterized by the floods in Spain. Firstly, starting with the corruption scandals, Sanchez is not new to corruption in his political career. Reuters in 2024 explains that just last year his wife was under a scandal with a quote alleged offense of corruption in the private sector and peddling. His wife was accused of giving proceeds recommendations for her husband to give up his knowledge. This corruption scandal was brought into by an organization called the Clean Hands. Both Sanchez and his wife denied corruption. However, it's shocking. Denied any However, when we look to Reuters in 24, we see that another corruption investigation was started just 5 days ago with a new investment into Sanchez with his transport ministry. His transport minister, from the span of 2019 to 2022, was found guilty of siphoning campaign money from other organizations into his own pockets, along with participating in Sanchez's private cabinet. This investigation is key as it shows that the corruption runs This is crucial when we look to the second point of his previous resignation attempts. As his previous resignation attempt steps from the investigation into the corruption scandal. Sanchez placed a 4-page letter, 4 pages, a 4-page letter on X explaining why he was considering the resignation of his campaign. Sanchez, a socialist leader, took off 7 days to complete this. fact we need to know. However, the problem stems from the lack of warning from the country. Catastrophic floods hit Spain earlier this week, with flash flooding decimating cities, wiping out homes, and leaving hundreds without food, clean energy, clean water, or a place to stay. With these flash floods hitting Spain to the extent that they did, many citizens are calling for a better emergency management system. They're calling for food, calling for water, and calling for the country to find those who are missing and those who are still dead. The flash floods, as explained by Time News, has had over 200 casualties, with currently being 217 dead and 80 citizens missing. The detriment of these flash floodings is crucial to the country, as it showcases exactly how the Prime Minister hasn't stepped up and exactly what the country needs moving forward, with so many missing and so many injured. Leading us to ask today's question on should Spain's Pedro Sanchez resign? And my answer to this is yes, for three main reasons. First, being he's not capable to run the country with past corruption scandals characterizing his leadership. Secondly, a previous resignation attempt that shows a cop-out in his inability to actually run the country. And finally, looking at today's real problem of the flash floodings and the poor emergency management coming from his cabinet. But firstly, starting to look at his past corruption scandals. Pedro Sanchez is not new to corruption in Spain, and in fact, he has had multiple corruption scandals in his career. But there are two big ones that characterize his prime minister leadership. Firstly, when we looked at 2023, Reuters in 2024 explains that his wife was under high scrutiny for, quote, alleged offense of corruption in the private sector and with panhandling. This is important, as his wife is accused of signing letters and signing checks for her husband to go to private universities to give them funding, support, and letters to get into the university within Spain. Furthermore, she was found panhandling multiple companies related to the government and accused of taking money and privately siphoning it into her pockets. This investigation stems from a private group called Clean Hands, set to stop corruption in the Spain's government. This investigation probe into his wife is exactly the problem of his leadership, as not only has he been accused of corruption, but his wife, his right-hand man, is also facing similar charges. Furthermore, when we look to Barron's in 24, we can see that a new investigation has just been opened against Pedro Sanchez 7 days ago, as an investigation into his cabinet and himself. We can see that his transport minister has been found guilty of siphoning money into his own pockets and siphoning money into the cabinet's pockets from the government itself. Furthermore, he was found guilty of being a part of an overall corruption ring in his cabinet for Pedro Sanchez. With his transport minister and his wife both being found guilty of corruption in the country, it's clear to see exactly why Pedro Sanchez should not be leading in the country and should instead stick to a resignation and push forward, as his approval ratings have gone down, corruption scandals have gone up, and two important people in his life and cabinet are found guilty of corruption. But speaking on previous resignations, we can look to the second point of previous resignation attempts from Pedro Sanchez in Spain. When we look back to April of 2023, Pedro Sanchez released a 4-page document on X following a 7-day break from his prime minister duties. In the 4-page document he released on X, he outlined a possible resignation for himself as prime minister, as he was fed up from political attacks from the polarized country, saying that the far right was attacking him personally and he could not take it anymore. To me, this sounds like a huge cop-out from the responsibilities and owning up to his own mistakes from past corruption attempts. Furthermore, he leads the minority coalition as a Socialist Party leader with a fractured parliament. He is unable to pass much of anything, says Politico in 24. With the stoppage of not being able to pass anything, with approval ratings on the decline, and then to publish a 4-page document characterizing how you want to resign as prime minister and how nothing is truly getting done, all fingers point back to him being the problem. Since the releasage of that, he has not resigned, but approval ratings have gone down, and he's consistently found himself in more and more trouble in the country. So, with himself being in more and more trouble in the country and approval ratings on the decline, we can finally look at the last point of mismanagement of emergency resources. Looking back to the flash floods happening in Spain and wiping out and decimating the country, we can see that 80 are missing, and 80 are currently missing. The problem with this is they did not send emergency warnings until the floods had already began in the country. With not sending out those emergency warnings, citizens are upset as they did not have the preparedness and response to be able to prepare for the flash floodings and prepare the house and themselves. This increased the mortality rate of these flash floodings and the danger levels of the floods. Furthermore, Algira in 24 explains that citizens feel that the reorganization efforts and recovery efforts are slow and unorganized. They have seen little improvement since the flash floodings, and in fact, the country is still in ruins. And with approval ratings being on such a decline, Politico from 24 explains that citizens have taken to the streets to throwing mud at Sanchez and his cabinet because of how they responded to the emergency mismanagement and the lack of security the citizens felt from his cabinet. So, overall, through past corruption scandals, a past resignation attempt, and his current lack of effort to help the country restabilize after the flash flooding, it's clear to see what the answer to today's question is of should Spain's Pedro Sanchez resign? And my answer to this is yes, as he is slowly copping out of responsibilities, continuing corruption, and failing to help his country in need.